Da 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 da. What's my good cheer? Welcome, everybody. Let's give YouTube a couple of moments to get those notifications out. In the meantime, if you've never popped into one of my lives before, hi, I'm Cindy. I explore the inside and the outside, and I am coming in late tonight because, as you know, I am heading off tomorrow on my big trip. The big trip that I reverse engineer every single year. And even though I complete the vacation of my dreams that I created, and I come home and I'm all set to create something different every year, it's almost the same vacation. I love it so much. I think Ontario has some absolutely beautiful provincial parks. I love being in different landscapes here in the prairies when everything is so flat, right? You really have to go a ways to have a different perspective when it comes to landscapes, geologically speaking, right? And and I don't know. I just feel this pull every year, and I always say I could do whatever I want. I could go to Europe. I could go to the States. I could go to workshops or seminars. But at this time of year, I am truly done. And I see people all around me just picking up momentum, picking up speed, right? And I guess in a way I am too. But that speed and that momentum is for my own benefit. I kind of feel like this is my end of my fiscal year, and that when I get home from this vacation, that I will, right, have another task, another goal that I'll reverse engineer. Uh, I'll start my next year's vacation, not too far behind, but I usually do get it started because I know that I have to get excited about things, and I do normally get excited about that connection with Mother Nature that I get to have once a year, understanding, that my life has been calling to the surface different interests, different tasks, different responsibilities, and I feel compelled to move that way. I see the world and the difficulties that the kids are going to have, and these are the kids that are going to rule our world, right? Rule us one day. And it's also in our handiwork because that influence into the wonderful human beings or not that they turn into be are a direct reflection of our contribution. Hello, Melvin. Hello, Melvin. So we're back onto the topic of risk. Now, I find it odd that risk is coming onto this plate, and I'm taking it as a little bit of a message for myself because, for the most part, in all my life, I haven't been much of a risk taker. I haven't. I have been, let me have a sip of my coffee. I have always been somebody who doesn't want to rock the boat, that's always trying to keep things calm and the same, right? That when it came to doing something really difficult or something that might cost me or might cost somebody I care about a great deal or cost an employer, whatever, I can kick into my hypervigilance, and I can easily talk myself out of taking a risk. And that is the truth. But I do believe that I have made some progress over the past few years in that aspect of my movement forward because I am moving. I am moving. And it's just that idea sometimes that when you bite off a big chunk, that it does look a little bit scary, right? The task looks a little bit daunting, or the goal looks a little bit impossible, right? So sometimes I do those, quite often, baby steps. And exactly sometimes when I'm not quite sure of where I'm going with this, I'm getting the clues, I'm getting the breadcrumbs, I'm getting the serendipities, I'm getting that curiosity. And so I start moving with it, right? Even when I don't know what the end game is. And it usually blossoms, opens up, right? Comes to the surface, whatever it is that looks so different from where I started. Okay, so we're only got today and tomorrow. I'm going to be doing a live tomorrow before I leave. I think I'm going to try and be out of here, I would say, by maybe 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I would like to be out of here, and hopefully by early evening I could be at my first campsite. And yeah, on holidays, on my vacation, giving myself that reward, that you know for maybe those moments where I didn't take those instant gratifications, that I didn't make those connections to Mother Nature, those evening walks that I love to do, but I know how how um, how important they are for my emotional and physical well-being. I went off to do some of those last minute chores today, and I was thinking, oh, just book a car. I belong to a co op. I thought, just book a car, just scoot around, get it all done in a couple hours, and you'll be home. And I said, no, I think maybe today would be a good day, just because I am in that flow, in that momentum. I'm going on vacation. I'm thinking, I'm forgetting all kinds of things. And this minimalist kind of idea that I had of going with very little this year, it doesn't look that way at all. I'm taking what I need, or what I think I might need, not taking as much as I did last year, but if I take into consideration that I'm doing it in baby steps, then I won't feel bad that right, I bit off a big chunk. I was ambitious in my thinking that I could go from, right, hairy, scary, and clutter straight down to, right, the bare minimum. But I am proud that I did try, right? And I waited pretty close to up on my trip in order to start doing on that packing, just on the idea that maybe I wouldn't pack as much. It didn't quite work out that way, but it's done now, you guys. I got a few dishes to wash, one more round on the floors, right? Sweep the floors, and I'm ready to go, right? So amazing. I won't be on my platform, I don't believe, until maybe next Monday or Tuesday. But if there's an opportunity for me to, get into a coffee shop or somewhere where I can connect to the Wi Fi, I most definitely will. But I can't say that this is distinctly and only for me, right? That's why I won't be going live. But it will free me up from any guilt or shame, or that draw to say, oh, right, my viewers are missing out on this great experience, because I'm going to have lots of great experiences. I'm going to walk some trails, I'm going mining for amethyst, I'm going to be on a road in my Jeep, in my dream truck. I'm super excited about that, right? And just to connect with Mother Nature. And the thing is, the whole idea is to disconnect with this, right? Like, just to disconnect with it all, and just stay in the moment of Mother Nature, of beautiful landscapes, as a wonderful little road trip, right? All that wonderful crystal that I'll be digging up and sitting on. I'm going to have the most amazing time. Can I say your name? I'm sure I can. Schmeckelback, Schmeckelback, Schmeckelback. It's pretty easy, actually, because it's unique. That's why, because your last name is unique, Melvin. It's kind of a cool little name. Okay, so let's get on to the idea of risk. And, I was thinking about how could I come up over or come up on this topic of risk. Somebody who's always been risk avoidant in all truth for most of my life. It's only up until recently in knowing what's at stake, you know, coming to the realization of all the lessons that I've missed out and all those missed opportunities and misunderstandings that set me back in my movement forward. This quote comes to you by Gina Davis, one of my favorite 1980s movie stars, Gina Davis. And the quote that she had, and I wrote it down here, right? Because it's such a good one. If you risk nothing, then you risk everything, right? And especially with this idea that I have, that I have to move away from some of the characters that haven't been serving me well, that I think that I have been connected with for possibly lifetimes, very much, decades after decades. And we have hurt each other detrimentally because we were never meant to travel the path together. Um, with only that love of family, you know what I mean? Without that actual common interest. And I don't have a lot of common interests with my sisters. My sister Alice, we both love thrifting. We don't both like antiques. She is my second youngest sister, and I seem to have more commonalities with her than I do with any of my other sisters. And it was probably a time when she was the furthest away from us. She was one that was able to separate within the family and go off and do her own thing, become independent. She did amazing for herself, my sister Alice. She did absolutely amazing for herself, but she took some risk. She took some risk in some of those relationships that she had. She took some risks in some of those positions that put the roof over her head. Like I couldn't imagine, like even in this moment right now, I've always been a paycheck to paycheck kind of girl. My sister has been an entrepreneur for most of her life. She actually put a roof over her family's head for probably 20 years in thrifting and eBay. And, she was the one who was actually, when I was having a hard time keeping jobs after my marriage fell apart, she was the one who actually got me into eBay. And I actually, well, we all have our fortes, but I picked the forte of fur coats because here in Manitoba, right, we get very, very cold winters. And besides Russia, I don't think there's any place else in the world that has more amazing fur coats. And you have to say that lots of people have this problem with people wearing furs, but these fur coats that I was selling, they were 50 years old, 60 years old. And I think sometimes that these singers and actors, when they wear these fur coats, even the men wear them, they call them pimp coats, right? Because they look like big pimp coats when they wear these big furs, right? But the idea was that I became an expert on selling fur coats, and there was always a concern because there were people out there, right, for the animals, and I love the animals too. But if you threw a can of paint on a beautiful mink jacket where that mink gave up its life 50 years ago, what purpose are you serving, right? You're making a statement about the furs, yes, but I think you're drawing attention to the disrespect of an animal that died in order to make that coat. And so I sold fur coats. I did very well on eBay selling fur coats, but I never took that serious risk. It was only in between because I was able to pick up jobs pretty quick, but I wasn't able to hold on to them for too long after my marriage fell apart. A little bit of that trauma, a little bit of that giving up, right? A little bit of that not caring anymore. And these are emotions that we talk about, right? On this slide, but this idea of risk and the idea that if you don't risk anything, right? You do risk everything because there is no movement forward without a risk. And a risk is only a change. A risk is only something that you're not sure of whether or not you can accomplish it. But in the lessons that I've taken in the past few years, and I'm understanding that optimism that somehow stuck with me my entire life, even through all that hairy scary in my childhood and my teenage years and my adulthood. It carried on. I didn't wake up to any of these ideas until well into my 50s, but I'm grateful, right? I'm grateful, but I'm grateful, I think, right, that I don't give credit to myself for taking those risks, for making movement in directions where I don't see other people making that kind of movement, and right, that I'm actually pulling myself off the couch, that I actually threw my TV away like 4 years ago. I haven't had a TV in at least 4 years. Now I make up for it on YouTube, but it's in my choices of the content that I choose to take in, right? Understanding that it is an influence. I get it 100%. I grew up on Pippi Longstockings and Saturday morning cartoons and Dark Shadows and Young and the Restless, and these were my babysitters. And these were my mentors growing up because my mother worked full time. My father went away quite a bit. And so we were left on our own. And for you would have had your own favorite shows. And that it keeps that childhood like playfulness about what I do because I understand, you know, those parts of me that were sitting in front of the television watching Pippi Longstockings with me or watching Dark Shadows or Saturday morning cartoons. Those were the same parts of me that were with me when I was taking the bullying in, when I was taking the name calling in, when I was trying to stand up for myself or stand up for somebody else and getting that pushback, right? There's all kinds of ways that we can look at this idea of taking risk, right? And you can take risk in baby steps. I mean, bigger the risk, the better and bigger the payout. You've heard that saying before, right? But that doesn't mean that you can't make movement and you can make difficult decisions. It took me, I would have to say, 3 years to move away from some very toxic people that I loved very, very much, that I had trauma bonded with, right? That I couldn't be around anymore because they were dragging me down into their pits of their miserableness, and we were feeding on each other on that. We do that quite often. Misery does love company, but at the same time, if one has a stronger emotion than the other, right, that stronger one is going to win out, and you're going to pull somebody who might be optimistic into your own misery. And I think that's what happened to me a little bit, because I've always been a optimistic person, but now I recognize now that, I was optimistic because I had parts, right? Walking with me, holding me up, supporting me when I didn't know it, right? And I have to be grateful for that because I didn't recognize at the time that there was anything or anyone who cared for me or who was supporting me or any way, who even recognized what I was going through, right? And here I was going through it with myself, right? With those other parts of me, right? Knowing that it would have to end. It would have to end, right? And as much as it was difficult, when it ended, it could only be as amazing, right? It could only be as amazing as I could create in my own imagination. And remember, I grew up with Pippi Longstockings, right? Edge of Night, Young and the Restless. I have a curious mind, but I also have a creative mind, right? And I do get creative about how I go about things, right? I make those goals. Reverse engineer, but sometimes in reverse engineering, we look for the easiest way to get it done, but not necessarily the most creative, most beautiful. I'm telling you, I'm putting together the most beautiful little vacation for myself, right? And it might not cost very much. It might be pocket change to some people, but I took risks in order to make it happen, and that is true. And I held my ground when I know that I could have easily stumbled over myself to accommodate others, and I would have and could have sacrificed this trip that I'm making, right? But I have to make sure that I'm making those risks, even though those risks are only uncomfortablenesses, right? Because we'll avoid even those are risky. And sometimes those can be the baby steps, can be the small things that we can do, right? To help get us out of the comfort zone so that we can make a little bit of movement, maybe some strides, maybe some complete change in our lives. Maybe we can just like, right, close our eyes and just jump and just trust that when we hit that water, it's going to engulf us in such a warmth and comforting, and we're going to pop up out of that water and excited just to climb up that hill and jump off that cliff again, right? Because a lot of times it's only in the practice, it seems risky in the moment because we've never done it before, but once we've done it, right, sometimes it's like we've just gotten back on a bike after being off a bike for 20 or 30 years, and you get back on it and you go, oh my goodness, right? Sometimes it's like that. But this quote, it comes from 1980s movie star Gina Davis. Remember her in The Fly? I like that movie, The Fly. I thought it was so well done. If you risk nothing, then you risk everything. Because without risk, there is no movement. Without risk, you're not going to make a choice and stand by it and stand your ground, right? Without that risk of not knowing, right? There's that payout. And sometimes the bigger the risk, the bigger the payout. Oh my goodness. Andrew's here too. Oh my goodness. It's nice to see you, Andrew. We're talking about risk, but you know what? Let's leave the risk now. I'm looking at my house. It's all packed. It's clean underneath. It just needs a little bit of tidy, but in order to get it to that tidy point, I have to get the truck loaded up. So my sister's coming to get me at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, maybe a little bit after that. we'll go up and we'll get the truck, come home, load it up, sweep, wash my floors, right? Take care of the cat for a few minutes, give her a couple of rubby dubbies. Huh? Are you a cutie? Yeah. And yeah, my sister's going to take care of her. She pretty much entertains herself. She doesn't do too much besides sleep, but she does love my attention. So I know she's going to miss me while I was away. And if I thought I could take her with me, I would take her with me. But this holiday is for me. And as much as I don't like entertaining others, and so many people ask me if they can come along on this trip with me this year, and of course, the answer was no, right? This trip is for me. This trip is to unplug from everything. Like I've already unplugged from my job, right? I feel good now. I feel disconnected from my job, so that feels good, but I need that feeling of being on the road and leaving everything behind, because then once that happens, that's it, right? 6 days, 7 days, just with me. I bump into people all the time, have amazing conversations and interactions, right? Even experiences that I have. But then again, I leave myself open. And when I do that, amazing opportunities and amazing adventures do come across my path. And that's why I have a loose itinerary. I have an itinerary, but it's loose, right? It's a loose so that it can accommodate anything that might come across my path. I am going to have a fantastic time. I'll be filming, but it will be for me, but I'm going to make the reward, right? Because right? It's only because of you guys that I'm still putting in this work, that I'm still showing up. I am my own best cheerleader, but if I was sitting here and consistently day in, day out with nobody, right? I don't know if I would still be here. I am grateful for all of you. 100%. I am grateful for all of you. And we don't know what's going to happen from one day to the next, but I'm grateful that you guys kind of hang out just to see what it is. Okay, you guys, I am bagged. I walked 8 kilometers today. I went and did my chores, but I walked over 8 kilometers today. I was really happy that I got that in. I didn't really have the time for it, but when I got home I realized my timings weren't too far off, right? So yeah. Wish me luck. Everything goes nice and smooth. Everything has gone smooth so far. I might have another hour in me, but that just might be it. I got lots done today. I am proud of myself. I am ready to go. Ready to go. And yeah, we'll see you guys on the flip side. Maybe sometime during the week, I'll try and go live. Maybe I'll go to McDonald's or Tim Hortons, like I said, and we could do a little live or something. Good night, Kathy. Thank you so much for coming and hang out. Andrew, thank you so much. Melvin, thank you, thank you. You guys that come in later, pop your feet up, take your shoes off, right? I hope you have an amazing, amazing week. And when I get back, I'll show you my adventures. And keep an eye open on my Instagram, because I'll probably post on my Instagram too. Thank you so. Oh, Andrew, I totally forgot to tell you. Your letter came today. Oh my goodness. It took me over 20 minutes to read, but it was so magnificent. I loved the way you folded that beautiful paper. That paper was so beautiful. But the way you folded it, so it looked like each piece of paper had 3 pages on it. Oh my goodness, it was absolutely amazing. And I was shocked that your brother drives. I would never have guessed, because I know from our conversations, right, about your brother, and I would never have guessed that he could actually drive. I thought that was absolutely Amazing, absolutely amazing. You have such a big heart, and when you talked about the memories of your brother who did pass away, I held on to things from my dad, for a very, very, very long time. And, I did let go of a lot of those things eventually. But you're right. When you think that somebody's life has been stolen out from underneath them, or they didn't accomplish some of those things that, right, you really thought that they might have been able to accomplish, or a life that they deserved or something, it's kind of a way to, right, like you said, uh, make sure that somebody is recognized from actually making an imprint on this planet. So yeah, don't feel bad about hoarding the few things from your loved ones. 100%. Yeah, it came to me. It was in my mail today, Andrew. It was in my mail today. I was so happy to say it. But your handwriting is so beautiful. The paper was so beautiful. Your storytelling was so beautiful, right? Yeah, you're a beautiful person yourself, Andrew. And thank you so much for writing me such a lovely letter. Yeah. And I'll try to reciprocate. You see how I put that try there? Because I know if I promise, then it's a promise, and you deserve a promise, Andrew. But I have those ship postcards. I'll make sure that I get those to you. Okay, you guys, that's my good cheer. I am off. Oh, I am. I'm done. I might even go to bed soon. Oh, it's only 9:30. Holy moly. Okay, maybe I've got another half an hour on me. Have a great night. See you tomorrow. Bye bye.